I really love this time of year for sports stuff. State basketball is happening, and we have several kids from StoneBridge that'll be playing at state this year, and coaches that are coaching at it. When I was in high school, I went to state to watch, and it was great. My senior year, we won state basketball, so these guys were incredible basketball players. Dana Childs and Jay Rodenberg, Tom Vergas, Alex Stiverns, who ended up playing in the NBA. We won state. My senior year was a great time, and so I love this season of the year. Mostly, I used to just, I wouldn't say skip school, but attend the basketball tournament, and it was a great time. I love that season of the year. I love winter sports anyway, and like the Olympics is super awesome. I've just had a blast. I really don't know what I'm going to do after today. The Olympics is over, and I just have to go back to my normal life. There's 3 sports in the Winter Olympics that if I could do one of the, I was thinking, man, if I could do be in the Winter Olympics, I would choose out of curling, amazing, right? Bobsled, totally want to do that, and ski jumping. Wouldn't that be great, right? Now, curling, I went to the curling trials here when I was here and watched that. In my office is John Schuster's photo that I took and had him sign. I've been a big curling fan for a long time, since my mom had me sweeping stuff. And love curling. It's just fascinating to me. I don't know how they do what they do. But a couple of people on our staff are there. In fact, one went this week, and I think another one's going to go next week to learn how to curl. I just think, man, that'd be super, super fun. But in curling, basically, is probably the safest of the 3 that I choose, right? Like, because nobody dies in curling. No big deal. Now, ski jumping, that's crazy, right? It's like you're up on the top of this ramp, all the way up on top of a mountain, and for whatever reason, you decide to ski down that and then go. Like you're leaning out over, and they go over 300 feet down that mountain. It's like, that's the craziest thing. I would totally love to do that if I wouldn't die. That would be just so, so great. Can you imagine? Whoosh. That'd be amazing. Bobsled, though, that's what I want to do. I totally want to do the bobsled. I just think that, because I sled when I was a kid, down the dam at Holmes Lake. So how hard can this be? Right? No big deal. I mean, they're hurling themselves 90 miles an hour on ice, and it's just crazy. Now, it's not as crazy as the luge or the skeleton. That's dumb. I found out this morning that you can go to Park City, Utah, and for a fairly large sum of money, you can go down on a bobsled with a driver and a brake person, and they set you in there and they throw you out, and you literally go through the bobsledding training course at Park City, Utah. So I know where I'm going on vacation. I just think that'd be awesome, right? In fact, kind of the older I get, the more my life feels a little bit like a bobsled. Like you just get going, and there's a few turns, and like, whoa, this is great. And you realize in a minute it's over. It didn't take very long at all. It's like, oh, really? That's it? That's all we got. It was that quick. Oftentimes we're tempted to play it safe, to do curling when we could do bobsled. For many of us, our favorite day of the week had been Friday, right? Friday, living for Friday, the weekend. But I think most of the time now, our favorite day is someday. Someday. Someday I'm going to do that. Someday I'm going to try that. Someday I'm going to, right? And it's the day in which we should, someday when I have enough money, someday when I get around to it, someday when my life's not so crazy, someday I'm going to try that. And then it's all over. God did not design you simply to stand by and watch, simply by wonder. I wonder what that was like. I wonder what that was like. It's quite possible today. During this morning, you heard Alex talking about going to Mexico, and everyone on our campuses heard about the Mexico trip today. And you might have been thinking, I wonder what that's like. I wonder what that's like. Someday I'm going to go. Someday I'm going to try it. Someday, when my life is not so crazy and the things kind of slow down and I have a little bit extra, someday I'm going to do that. A few years ago, we took our family to Worlds of Fun, and Justin and Nikki and Mitch and Alyssa and our 2 grandkids and Linda and I went, and Worlds of Fun has a section called Camp Snoopy. And it's for little kids, and it's a pretty fun little spot if you're 3. So somehow we were, I don't want to say stuck with, but given the opportunity to spend time with our grandchildren at Camp Snoopy's, where Justin, Mitch, and Nikki and Alyssa went off and went on the big rides. So they were so small that at that time that they couldn't go on by themselves. So this 6'2", semi-overweight guy had to get on the rides with them. It was massively uncomfortable and incredibly boring. Okay, you can get off now. I can't get out. Somebody help me. Terrible. After a little while of that, we met up with Mitch and Alyssa and Justin and Nikki, and they said, "You got to ride on the Patriot." Like, what? You got it right. I'm in. I don't care what it is. Let's go. I don't want to do right. And so it's crazy ride. It's fast. It's furious, and it's intense, and it's over in about a minute. Now, when I was younger, I'd have said, "Let's get back on," but I was like, "Oh, that was fun." I just went off. Far too many of us are living a kiddie ride faith. Paul's letter to the Thessalonian church is a life into a wild kind of ride. Now, the little church in Thessalonica had just been established by the Apostle Paul. He had only spent maybe a few weeks there, and somehow, in a few weeks, he had been able to share faith with people, so much so that they would be baptized in front of people. They would literally, this was a crazy thing. This was massively think about this. They're leaving a life they know in a matter of a short period of time. Somehow he's able to establish some relationships with people and gather these folks and teach them about Jesus, so much so that people would say, I want to be a follower. And they baptize them and they establish a church, and then Paul leaves. And then in a short period of time, he writes them this incredibly intimate letter. And it's not for the town of Thessalonica. It's for this little church in the city of Thessalonica. And they read it together. And you see here why we call it the church is the new hope, because it's the hope of the world. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. Dear brothers and sisters, after we were separated from you for a little while, though our hearts never left you, we tried very hard to come back because of our intense longing to see you again. We wanted very much to come to you, and I, Paul, tried again and again, but Satan prevented us. After all, what gives us hope and joy? And what will be our proud reward and crown as we stand before the Lord Jesus when he returns? Crazy, right? So he puts the picture of heaven here. Amazing, right? So he's like, I just want you to know, you are our pride and joy. What gives us a thrill to know that you're in faith. And when I get to heaven, the reward I get is you. That's crazy, right? That's an amazing thought. Yes, you are our pride and joy. Finally, when we could stand it no longer, we decided to stay alone in Athens, and we sent Timothy to visit you. He's our brother and God's co-worker in proclaiming the good news of Christ. We just sent him to strengthen you, encourage you in your faith, and keep you from being shaken by the troubles that you're going through. So the purpose for Timothy to show up was to encourage and to help you get through it. But you know that we were destined for such troubles. Even while we were with you, we warned you that troubles would soon come, and they did, as you know. That is why when I could bear it no longer, I sent Timothy to find out whether your faith is still strong. I was afraid that the tempter had gotten the best of you and that our work had been useless. Paul sees the separation from his church family like being a mom or a dad separated from their children. And we know what that's like when you're separated from your family, when you miss them. Paul is saying this. I have the same feeling when I'm away from you. I want to be with you. 3 John verse 4, he writes, I could have no greater joy than to hear that my children are following the truth. Now that's a great verse. Oftentimes it's used by mom or dad as put on a poster or something. It's a great verse. It's like I have no greater joy than to know my kids are believers, and that's true, right? As parents, we totally get that. Our hope is that someday our children, like we watch today here at this Omaha campus, embrace faith, and we celebrate. I mean, there's no greater joy as a mom or dad. We desperately want that. And when our kids are away from faith, right, that's our constant prayer, that someday perhaps they would find their way back to God. That somebody in their at work or on their ball team would say something like this: would you please come to church with us? And they would make that step. That's a constant prayer for many of us. But he's not talking about our children. He's talking about our church family. We have no greater joy than to know our church family is moving forward in faith. The apostles, Paul viewed their church family as their family. When their spiritual kids were hurting, it hurt their heart. When their spiritual kids were doing well, it encouraged them. Paul even says this: it helped us to know that our work with you had not been a waste of time. And there's nothing more encouraging to this pastor than to see your faith grow. Because of what I do for a living, it's sometimes hard to see progress. Sure, more people might be coming to church, but the only way we see progress is through your faith, taking steps towards goodness and holiness, taking steps of faith to try something, to find your way to a small group. All those things give us courage. One of the blessings for me, having been here at StoneBridge for over 20 years, is that I've got to watch many of you take that journey for a long period of time. It gives me courage and hope. Paul says, I tried everything I could think of to find my way back there. I couldn't get there. Nothing worked. And then he injects something. I was trying to figure out, what is this about? And he says, Satan blocked our way. We wanted to come see you so badly, and it was so important to us, and it was going to bring us great joy that Satan had to get involved. So Satan has to put roadblocks up to keep them from getting together. And why? Because if he can discourage the Thessalonian little church there, he can put a major kink in the advancement of the gospel. And if he can get Paul and Silas and Timothy to be discouraged because it keeps them away from each other, then he slows everything down. I think Satan all the time is trying to block us from getting together. He knows the encouragement and the courage we receive when we come together at church, right? So today, already you're feeling like, man, I'm so glad I was here. I got to watch that. I got to sing this. And communion time, everything about today for you has been important and needed and valuable. You made your way here today. I think Satan all the time tries to slow us down from getting together. I think he uses a couple of things. Busyness. I heard this saying one time that if Satan can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. Someday when my schedule slows down, then I'll get more involved at church. Someday when, it's like, and everything, all the time. In fact, I think sometimes we want to be busy because we think that makes us important. The busier I am, the more important I am. But all of us have the same amount of time. Now, none of us have any more or less, but we might have a longer period of time on the planet. But every single day, you and I have the same amount of time. We just choose, there's certain ways we choose to do our time. Busyness is the favorite excuse for people who stay away from church. Well, I'm too busy. I work 6 days a week and push it pretty hard, and I just need a little bit of time to veg. I see that Satan's just making you busy. I'd love to, but I'm too busy. And usually then to make it sound a little bit better, we say, well, but, my kids are, my kids are really busy. Oh, okay. What if David had been too busy to slay the giant? Here the Israelite nation is on one side of the valley, and the Philistine nation is on the other side of the valley. They're going to fight it out and try to capture territory. And the Philistine army is impressive and huge, and they have massive weaponry. And the Israelite nation, not so much. They have 2 swords in the entire camp, so not a big threat. Now, nobody wants to really die. They don't want to have a whole lot of fighting here. And so this big guy, massive man, Goliath, comes out and shouts profanities and taunts the nation of Israel and challenges them. He said, nobody wants to die here today. Let's just keep the casualties to a minimum. How about you take your best guy and we'll take our best me and we'll do this, right? And he's a massive man with a great deal of intimidation and vulgarity and taunts the God of Israel. And he does this for days. Nobody wants to fight, and it becomes massively embarrassing. David happened to be there. He was a little boy at the time, not very old at all. He had been taking care of his father's sheep, but his brothers are all in the army of Israel, and so his dad sends a care package with David to take care of his boys and that kind of stuff. And so David hears the taunting and says, why isn't anybody doing this? And he's ridiculing our God, and he's making fun of our nation, and somebody needs to do something. Well, nobody wants to do anything. It should have been King Saul. King Saul should have taken up the challenge, but when you aren't living by faith, the giants seem massively huge. When you don't live by faith, you're intimidated and you don't want to move forward. And King Saul, who should have been living by faith at this moment, doesn't. But David says, I'll take up the challenge. Everybody tried to talk him out of it, but he decided to do it. David didn't see a giant that day. But if David had played it safe, because he was too busy, the giant wins. God did not create you for kiddie rides. He created you to slay giants. Are you doing anything in your life that requires a certain amount of faith that would get the devil's attention? That would give the devil's attention so much so that he would put up some roadblocks in your life to try to get you to be maybe busier than, right, and more normal, and then so much so that you will end up saying, I just don't have time for that. I would someday when I'm not so busy, someday when things kind of slow down, someday when the kids are not on multiple things, someday I will do that. Right? Those are just obstacles that Satan's putting out there. Another one is just being tired. I'm wiped out mentally, physically, spiritually. I want to veg. I need some me time. I think I'll sleep in. Vacation might help. Matthew 11, 28, 29. Then Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary, because some of you some of you will be, so come to me, right? Notice that was Jesus said, like, if you're weary, what does Jesus tell us to do, right? Check this out. If you're weary and are carrying heavy burdens, I will give you rest. Huh. I was kind of hoping for a vacation, Jesus. Take my yoke upon you, let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart. And there you're going to find rest for your souls. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking vacations. I like taking vacations. But you ever taken a vacation when you get back home, you think, boy, I sure could use a vacation. And it's like, just so crazy. And my body might have found rest, but my soul didn't. Busyness and being tired can be obstacles that get in our way. The most important part of my life is not my physical body, but my spiritual dimension. Most of us neglect our spiritual health. Healthy things need time and energy and need to grow. If Satan can make us so tired that we don't want to grow spiritually, we might neglect getting together. Last night I was kind of wiped out a little bit. It's like, because I had done nothing, right? I mean, The reason I was tired was because I stayed up till 3:30 in the morning watching curling. I watched it live in my living room all by myself. Linda had not felt well all day, and in fact, had to stay home from work. It was kind of rough going, so she went to bed, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna watch curling." And so I sat. We have one TV. It's in our living room, right next to the bedroom, and so I watched curling in my living room in the dark, 3:30 in the morning, no sound, because that's the kind of husband I am. So I watched it. It's amazing. So then I had to watch it, a little bit of it, most of it again, with the sound on later on. But I was kind of wiped out last night. Now, I knew that our campus in Millard was having an event at the YMCA, and I thought, I should go there. I'd like to, but I'm kind of tired. And I got to preach, and I try not to do a whole lot on Saturday night anyway, because I got to do stuff, get up kind of early, and save my energy and write a sermon, things like that. No, I don't write a sermon. But I decided to go to this event last night, and it was so good for my soul. I hit a few jump shots, which was nice. But I kept talking to people, several who had just got back from the Mexico trip. Their eyes were lit up. Their hearts were happy. And if I had just stayed home, I could have. But then I wouldn't have heard and saw the joy. Hey, we all have so much time and energy and stuff, besides what we want to make. What if we only had a short amount of time on earth? Because we're hurtling down this thing called life. If I knew I only had a short minute of time, what would I do? Go to the gym? No, I would not go to the gym. Like, well, you got 2 days left. I'm not going to the gym. I'm going to go be with some people who are my pride and joy. John chapter 15, verse 1 says, I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit. Uh-oh. Prunes the branches that do not bear fruit so that they will be productive even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I've given you. Remain in me, and I'll remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. I think he's really kind of like, don't get this backwards. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, for apart from me, you can do nothing. What? Apart from me, I can do what? He says, there's some things you got to do. You got to stay connected to Jesus. That's why this gathering is super important for us, right? It's the way we connect with Jesus. That's not the only way. I mean, he doesn't live here, right? He doesn't live here. But we get connected with Jesus when we are singing and hear the message and watch baptisms and have communion together and give our money. It all helps me connect and refocus. And if I just do this, like, I'm not going to do this, I'm tired. And again, people are like, I don't have to go to church to be a Christian. Okay. I think you're playing it safe, and I think you're foolish. Because apart from him, you can do nothing. But thank you for making the commitment here and doing a little pruning. Be connected with him. That I got to prune some stuff out of my life so that I can be connected with Jesus and that I can do, right? What I'm supposed to be producing fruit. I'm supposed to be producing fruit. All right. Abide in me. How do we maintain this connection with Jesus? Well, we've been talking about that. Prayer, reading my Bible, going to the small group, going on a mission trip. I'm so proud of our church yesterday. Several people went down to the Open Door Mission to put food boxes and stuff together. And, the weather was supposed to be really bad and ridiculous. And we thought, well, maybe we should just cancel it because, weather. And so I said, well, just say, hey, if be careful, whatever. But the open door isn't canceling. They're open. They need help. And a bunch of folks put together over 600 food boxes yesterday from StoneBridge. Man, way to go. And there were people like, I know that we're there. And I looked at the picture of that little thing. What if they had just stayed home? All right. Made the difference. Now, we're all works in progress, and we have moments of weakness, and if we wallow in that and we'll stay away from God and stay away from the church, and Satan wins, and those are little roadblocks as well. When we mess up and we confess, we move on. Confessing to God simply means that I agree with God that what I did was wrong. And sin is that roadblock oftentimes that keeps us from being connected. This week, Billy Graham passed away, and I've read a lot of stuff about him and his life, and massively impressive. And people were talking about, hey, I bet the celebration in heaven, I bet it's just amazing. I bet it is. But it's not going to be any more amazing than when you get there. It's the same reception. He'll say the same thing to you that he said to Billy. Well done, good, faithful service. Hey, why don't you go talk to some folks here? So glad you're here. See, we all get there the same way. Not by our goodness. Billy didn't get in because he was a great preacher or even a great human being. He got there because he believed in Jesus and enjoyed the fellowship of the church. Let's pray. Thank you, God, so much today that we get to celebrate together the goodness and the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. We're grateful for this church in particular. We like it. The people here inspire and give me courage. I'm grateful for that. In Christ we pray.